I used to work night security at Hollow Pines Mall, one of those places that felt like it had been forgotten by time. You know the kind. Flickering signs, stained ceilings, and a parking lot that's more weeds than pavement. By the time I started the job, the place was basically dead. Only a couple of stores were technically still open, but even those were just front operations for places that did all their business online. It was the kind of mall where the automatic doors didn't work unless you shoved them, where the air always smelled like old carpet and coal dust, where pigeons lived in the rafters and sometimes you'd find feathers stuck in the escalator tracks. Honestly, the whole building should have been condemned. Most nights I never saw another person after 8 p.m. My shift started at 10 and went until 6 in the morning. And even though it was creepy sometimes, I kind of liked the solitude. I'd just make my rounds, log door checks, and sit in the security office watching camera feeds that were mostly static. But over time, I started noticing things that didn't make sense. It wasn't just lights turning on by themselves or the occasional flickering bulb. Stuff like that's easy to explain. Faulty wiring, power surges. But sometimes I'd hear something, like footsteps, kid-sized, running. It always happened in bursts, like a child sprinting across the tiled floor somewhere down one of the abandoned hallways. I'd stand up fast, grab my flashlight, go out and look. Nothing. The sound would stop the second I turned the corner. Sometimes I'd even hear faint laughter, just a single giggle echoing from around a bend, like whoever it was knew I was looking for them. I told myself it was rats, big ones, or my mind playing tricks on me. You get used to that kind of thing in empty places. Your ears fill in the silence with whatever they can. But then one night, things got worse. It was a Tuesday in October. I remember that because Halloween decorations were still hanging from a few forgotten store windows. Cobwebs, jack-o'-lantern stickers, plastic skeletons. I was making my usual walk through around 11:30 p.m., just passing the old food court. Every store around me was long since boarded up or abandoned, except one, the old Sunshine Toys shop. Now this place had been shut down for years. Mold issues, water damage, you name it. The glass doors were sealed with caution tape and cardboard, and no one had touched the place in ages. But as I walked past, I saw something strange. There was light coming from inside, just a dull yellow glow, like a single bulb had been left on in the back. I stopped in my tracks, stared through the grimy glass. It was hard to see, but I could just make out the outlines of shelves, boxes, and someone standing between them. A child, short, still, wearing a black hoodie. He was facing away from me, staring at something on the shelf. I radioed it in, even though I knew no one was listening. Then I walked over. The caution tape that used to be strung across the doors? Gone. No scraps, no remnants, just clean glass and an unlocked handle. The door creaked when I opened it. Inside smelled like mildew and plastic, like an old attic. I stepped in slowly. "Hello?" I called. "You're not supposed to be here." Silence. The shelves were full of faded toys, some still in boxes, all layered in dust. I followed a narrow aisle toward where I'd seen the figure. No one was there now. I heard the sound again, running footsteps. But this time, inside the store. They darted past an aisle behind me. I spun around, flashlight beam shaking, nothing. Then I saw him, the kid, again. This time at the far end of the store. He turned a corner and slipped into the back room, the old employee stock area. I moved faster now, trying to keep him in sight. The back room was darker, colder, broken shelves, water-damaged ceiling tiles on the floor, and piles of old stuffed animals. He stood in the middle of it, perfectly still, facing me now. And something about him just didn't look right. His face was too pale, almost gray, like a washed-out photo. His eyes were wide, too wide. He looked at me without blinking, without any expression. Then he smiled, but only with his mouth. His eyes stayed blank. I felt this tight pressure in my chest, instinct telling me to leave. I took one step backward, and the moment I did, the lights went out. My flashlight flickered violently. I turned and ran out of the room, back into the store's front. Everything was dark and silent. I didn't stop running until I got back to the security office and locked the door behind me. I sat there for a good 5 minutes before I had the nerve to check the security feeds. Camera 9, facing the toy store, was just static. I tried rewinding the tape. From 11:28 to 11:42, there was nothing, just a cut, as if that time never happened. 2 nights later, it happened again. I was back on shift, convincing myself I'd imagined it all. But sometime after midnight, I heard footsteps again, running, quick, sharp, echoing in the empty halls. I went to check the monitors, and there he was, standing in front of the toy store, just standing, not moving, facing the camera. He stared for a full minute before turning around and disappearing into the shadows. That was the last time I saw him. I quit a week later. I told my manager I had a family emergency. Took a job doing night patrol at a warehouse. Boring, safe, no strange noises, no kids. But last year, after they started tearing Hollow Pines down, I read something in the paper. Construction crews found an old storage room hidden behind a false wall near where Sunshine Toys used to be. Inside were some crates, old decorations, and a pair of small sneakers, tucked neatly against the wall. No ID, no missing persons reports matched, no explanation, no follow-up. I don't know what I saw in that mall, but I know this. There was a kid in there, and I don't think he ever left.